So here is my latest, and probably not the greatest purchase I've ever made, but it was a $300 toaster car. This is a 2016 Kia Soul that I picked up with 172,000-ish miles on it. I indeed paid $300 for it because the engine sounds like it's chewing on some gravel. Take a listen. Now, there's only two reasons why I think people even know that the Kia Soul exists, and one was because of that crazy marketing strategy they had with the first generation Kia Soul, with those wacky hamster, gerbil, demented things that like to rap. You could go with this or you could go with that type of behavior, and somehow that's who they marketed to. A bunch of rapping gerbils. And the second reason people knew what these cars were was because all of the engines blew up, and this one isn't far from it. So let's dive in and see how well this 2016 Kia Soul with 172,000 miles on it held up in the Rust Belt states that's been kind of all over the world according to the previous owner in a short little review segment that I'm gonna start calling the Shitbox Spotlight, because I buy a lot of shitboxes. So here we go, a 10-year-old Kia Soul that's lived in the Rust Belt states its entire life and been all over the world according to the owner. Again, only one owner vehicle. So they bought this thing with like 100 miles on it from the dealership, brand new. They wanted every single option. And to be fair, this thing actually is loaded, which blows me away because Kia Soul. Now the guy I bought it from did say that they had a deer impact this rear door, so the door has been replaced. Other than that, he said something about the rust right here, as you can see. And he did mention it was a little confusing why just that door rusted, the other side's good, and the underside's like super clean. We'll get to that. But the only thing I could think of was when the door got smacked into by the deer or whatever, they either A, replaced it with a used door, and maybe that door had a little cut or something on the bottom by the paint, and then, you know, the rust happened. Or when they repaired the door and had to paint it, and you name it, it just, flaked off at the bottom at one point, and the rust started to happen. If we look close, there's like little dings in it here and there. There's like little creases. But overall, the paint is pretty much holding up pretty good for 10-ish years. Another little rust spot forming on the hatch right here. Rims are looking okay. This side looks pretty darn good. But overall, the condition on the outside is fairly decent, believe it or not. Now, what I do know is this is the second generation Kia, being a 2016. So it got like a different facelift and a different front end. And I think that the taillights too, if I remember right, in the first generation, these taillights were a lot different too. These are like huge now. And now I know there's even a third generation Kia Soul. And believe it or not, I think they still are in production, which no Kia expert, but I guarantee there's gonna be somebody that's a Kia expert that's gonna tell me all about it. Now, every time I look at this thing, I just cannot stop picturing those gerbils all over this thing, those little hamster gerbils. Why? Why did they have to market it that way? Let's dive into the interior and show you how loaded this thing actually is. The good thing is it's not extremely filthy like most of these cars I go and pick up sight unseen. But even these seats, they're all nice leather seats with the yellowish stitching, which is pretty cool. Stitching on the center console here. Stitching on the boot right here. Stitching on the steering wheel. Some WeatherTech floor mats. And surprising enough, the thing is actually quite comfortable. Power seats, heated seats too, mind you. And check this thing out. It's got a full panoramic roof. So this thing goes all the way back. Why they put this in here, I have no clue. But they did. So look at that. You can do your little hamster waves out the window now. Now this thing got like an upgraded sound system with a full GPS touchscreen. You got heated and cooled seats right here. That's kind of bizarre why it's in this little rinky-dink car. You have all the phone controls and the mode switches right here on the steering wheel. You have the heated steering wheel right here. And then you had this like music mode thing right here where you could change the lighting in here. All the lighting changes with these like LED rings here. I'll show you if you shut the door. Now they light up. This side too. And then you could like change it to the bass of the music and you name it. So that way you can have a nice party in your Kia Soul. So I'm not really sure what these modes do. You can see up in this dash if you hit it, you got like a normal mode, sport mode, and then a comfort mode. And I don't really know what that does, but it does something. Then you have an eco something over there. I think that's for fuel economy. 172,000 miles on this old turd. Oh, this must be your active eco button there. Yep. So you can save your fuel. And then it came with a push button start with a key fob. Now, not only did you get these wacky lights, this is the premium sound system apparently. It had these weird speakers up on top. I don't know why they angle them like that with this massive speaker right in the center, but check this out. This one actually came with a rear subwoofer in it, which is why. And since we're back here, this is the rear cargo space. Not a lot going on there, as you can see. And we go up underneath here, you can see there's an amplifier under this seat. A little dirty back here. Now the rear seating is like the front with the stitching. You got the yellow stitching in here. You got buttons back here to fold the seats up. Got your little drink beverage holder and arm placement thing right here in the center if you needed it. These also had heated seats in the back as well, both sides. Crazy. Oh yeah, and the guy was telling me they even had a hitch put on this thing because they used to tour the world with it. And they even rode around with their e-bikes using the back of this thing. So as you can see, the interior and the exterior has actually held up pretty decently over the past 10 years. So let's dive into the engine bay, what it all looks like in here, and what this engine is all about. Now, being that this is the Plus model, it got the 2.0 direct injection engine. And actually, let's look up some stuff here. So yeah, the 2.0 engine actually had 161 horsepower and 150 to 160 foot-pounds of torque. And then this one was equipped to a 6-speed automatic, but it looks like you could have got this in a manual too, which, why wasn't it manual? Shucks. So here's what we're working with. Now there's actually a little bit of room in this engine bay, believe it or not. Pull the engine cover off here and take a peek at that, what that looks like. So 2.0, we got a plastic valve cover. The belt looks like it's never been replaced. We do have a replaced ignition coil right here, so some work has been done on it. 5W20 oil. Let's take a peek at the oil here. I don't know, it's just a little dirty, but she's knocking, so expected. Still using the old style refrigerant, I see. This is always a good way to see if the car's been properly maintained. Checking all these filters. I love doing this. They make it easy to get out at least. Yep, a little dust. Actually, fairly clean. I really do think that these people actually cared for this thing because overall it's a really clean car. Now, as far as checking transmission fluid, it's just got that fill plug up on top. So there's no dipstick on this one like every other car is going to these days. Coolant level looks pretty darn good. Take a peek at the coolant. What kind of coolant is it? It's like, looks like it's been flushed probably. I bet you that's not the original Kia coolant. Who knows? What color is a Kia coolant supposed to be, people? My beloved interstate battery in this thing. Yippee. A good spot to put a turbocharger right here. Electric power steering. Tiny brake booster back there. So honestly, the engine bay is extremely clean. Everything looks really good in here too. Just a bummer that the engine has to have a nice tick and it's on its way out. All right, well, I want to take a peek at this thing up on the hoist. But I think before we do that, let's take it for one test drive here. And cross my fingers it doesn't explode on me because when I moved it here, it did shut off. The check engine light's on, it's flashing, it's in limp mode. I did drive this thing here, so I think we should be okay. Let's take it for a spin. I'm gonna bring the scanner with us too. Try to clear that check engine light just so I don't have to stay in limp mode. Maybe we'll just watch that knock sensor activity as well, and then we'll put it back on the hoist when we get back. So let's take this thing for a quick rip. All right, we are fired up. Flashing check engine light. I am just gonna go over here and just go in here quick and clear it to see if I can not have the knock sensor code current. It's a P1326 knock sensor code, and it puts us in limp mode. Read DTC, glow relay. Okay, well that's wrong. It's P1326 is actually a knock sensor code. So let's see here. Clear DTC. All right, no more check engine light. Let's just crawl into live data quick. All right, let's chart this. So this will show if we have any knock sensor activity, which it's not picking up anything at idle here. So let's take it for a cruise. All right, I don't plan on going too far because this thing's already rattling really bad. To be fair, I did drive this thing home, like from, I don't know, a 20-minute drive away, probably 20-ish miles, and it drove home, but it was in limp mode. So currently I'm out of limp mode, so let's take this thing for a small cruise because it's knocking. All right, so overall, the thing actually doesn't handle that bad for being a toaster car. I can actually give it gas now because I'm not in limp mode. Oh, it is rattling bad. I don't know how I'm not picking up any engine knock. But overall, for a toaster car, it seems fine. A little bit of road noise, which you would expect for kind of one of these cars, I would assume. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but that engine noise is just rough. I'm surprised it lets me accelerate. Yeah, still not picking up engine knock. It just feels like a hunky-dory car. I don't know. Well, I won't go too far. Let's go back up to the shop here and put it up on the hoist. Now, before I was going to pull it in, I was just going to try to disable the injectors to see if I could isolate which cylinder is making the noise. But just look how bad it knocks when I disabled the cylinder 2 or cylinder 3 injector. It sounds pretty bad. When we go into here, let's do cylinder 3. We're going to disable it. Hopefully that's picking that up. You get the point. It has a knock. Let's get it on the hoist. Maybe we'll drain the oil too, just to kind of take a peek and see what this full picture looks like on this thing. Okay, I got the toaster up in the air now. Let's take a peek underneath. First up, we got the big plastic belly pan underneath here. I'm not seeing any oil leaks or anything like that, which is nice. This mount is a little squishy. You have this humongous muffler right here. That thing is massive. You got some e-brake cables that come back through here. Fuel tank. Oh, no wonder it's such a slush box. This is like a Dodge Caravan rear axle setup. I would say that's kind of nice if you ever need to do a fuel pump. It looks like they have an access port in the back here. I don't know if it's under the rear seat or something. This must be for the ABS. On both sides, yeah. Look at this weird little muffler. Now even these tires are in pretty darn good shape. Let's see here. 4924. Yeah, so basically the end of 2024, so a year old on tires. That's kind of nice. The rotors are a little bit rusty from sitting, but you can see that gray on them. They've been replaced. And the pads don't look terrible. Same thing with the front. Front brakes have been replaced too. And those brakes are, I don't know, 65, 75%. So those look really good too. There's not a lot to these cars, it looks like. Got a little bit of surface rust and stuff like that starting here, which is expected. This side looks much better. Yeah, this is all looking good. I mean, I'm not seeing any like super nasty rust, which is a good thing. You know, just a little bit of surface stuff, no rot. So that's holding up pretty good for 10 years in the rust belt. All the suspension's looking good. I don't see any axles busting up yet. No boots ripping. The struts look like blah, like they all do, with 172,000 miles on it. Let's do the pry edge on some parts here. Oh, nice and tight. Yeah, that one's tight too. Let's actually take this belly pan down so we can get a good visual of what this engine looks like here. Clips in the front, bolts in the back. And now we can get a good look at everything. Now that pan's out of the way. As you can see, there's just not much to this thing. The starter's buried up here. Here's the access to the valve body. It's got this weird drain here. This must be the drain for, I don't know, probably this. This is probably the drain for the transmission here. Got this weird plug here. I don't know what that's for. Interesting. Pretty large radiator on the thing. Big old big boy fan on it. This must be the water collect box, whatever you call those things. AC compressors down here, crank sensors, the whole yada yada. This thing is super clean though. I don't see a thing of leakage on it, which is kind of a shame that the engine has to have a big old tick to her. You know, the one thing I always do find fascinating is how they mount these engines for these front wheel drive cars. You have a mount just holding it from jumping out of the car when it torques. And then you just have a mount way up top and another mount way up top here. There's like nothing really holding this thing in. So pretty easy to get in and out, I'm assuming, out of these cars. No wonder all the Kia techs love it. Nothing but nonstop work with these engines. Saying goodnight. Now, since we've gone this far, we might as well just drain the oil and just take a peek at it. Maybe we can get a camera up there and see if we notice anything too with a rod. I don't know how it's going to look on the inside. I've never had anything like this apart before on one of these. So let's get the oil drained and just kind of take a peek of what it actually looks like quick. All right, I'm going to do my best to capture this stuff too here. Don't make a mess. All right. All right, well, let's see if we got any swirly bits in here. The guy did say the oil was changed recently, which I don't know why. There's definitely some sparkles happening in that one. Pretty nasty looking. Hard to see in the camera probably, but it looks like a Milky Way going on. All right, I was kind of unsure on how far I really wanted to go tearing into this thing, but now I'm kind of curious. What if we just pull this oil pan off and take a peek? Since we're already reviewing this thing, kind of looking it over, why don't we just take a peek? It's not that hard, it looks like, to take this oil pan off and maybe we could find out what's actually making that noise. I suspect rod bearing because that's what goes bad on these engines, I believe. I guarantee somebody in the comments would know, so if you do, you know what to do. So why don't we just pull this pan off since we're here? I mean, it'll take a minute. Why not, right? All right, so we got this, looks like this 14 mil. We got to take this dust cover off, I think. Oh, yeah. Like that, and there's two 10 millimeter bolts back there. All right, see if I can pry this thing off here. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. This thing is seriously like glued on there. Maybe this isn't going to be as easy as I thought it was going to be. Man, it is so glued on there. That is some good sealant. Holy cripes. It's moving, but it's bending the oil pan. Oh gosh. Well, I guess at this point it really doesn't matter, huh? Oh, wow. I bent that oil pan getting that. Holy crap. Well, that's on there. Yikes. Oh, man. That stuff's a good sealant. Holy crap. Wow. All right, so far I'm not seeing anything like metal shavings or anything like that. And this thing's a little dirty on the inside, which probably is to be expected. I got a number here on the rod. What is that? JH? Something like that? I don't know what that means. But these rods, man, these are some tiny rods. A little bit of side to side on that, which is probably, I'm gonna have to rotate this engine, I think, because I can't really get access to this. All right, let's try to turn this crank bolt here. Let's get access to these rods a little bit easier, hopefully. That's what we're looking for. So here's number 1. And here's number 4. I'm not seeing anything like burnt up on them or anything like that. Let's go to 2 and 3 here. Got compression. All right. So there's 2. And then there's 3. I'm not really getting a whole lot of bounciness back and forth. Crank doing? I don't know. Well, what's making the tick noise? Who's making that noise and why? I think it's cylinder 2 rod. Try to be quiet here so you can all hear it. But here we go. So let's get this cap off. Let's take a peek. See if that bearing's shot. Well, here is the bearing, and it's still got the coating on it. It looks fine. So maybe me rocking it side to side is what I'm hearing, and even the journal on that thing looks fine, so maybe it's just me rocking it side to side. I might have to pull off all these caps and just see here, because that looks fine. I don't know what the heck's going on. Let me put this one back off. I'm going to take them off one by one and see if I can find it. All right, I got a little bit of a head scratcher here because it all looks really good. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is looking great. I mean, I'm not seeing any like chunks of wear. And then look at the journals on here. I wiped them with my finger, but all that stuff is nice and shiny and perfect. All of them. So, what is it? Is it going to be a piston that's cracked or something? I don't really know at this point. Yeah, maybe I should pull the spark plugs. I thought this was going to be a quick one. All right, I'm going to pull the spark plugs. All right, guys, I got the plugs out, and I can't figure out what the hell is actually going on with this thing. I think it's just maybe the cylinders are possibly worn out. I was thinking maybe cracked piston. I'll show you the cylinders with the camera. Show you what I got going here. So this is cylinder number 1. And look at all the carbon buildup on there. But if I turn this thing, the scoring on the cylinder walls, right there, you can see it's pretty scored up. Get the camera to rotate. Right here, on the scoring on the cylinder walls. And that's every cylinder. But I thought maybe right here, maybe there was a broken piston, but I think that's just for the valves to sit down in there. But that's on every cylinder, looks like that. Move it over to 2 here. Yeah, two's a pretty nasty one too. You can really see the wear on this cylinder. Again, I just don't know if that's enough to make it knock like that, but you can see there's a nice wear mark right here. It's scratched way down. But you can still see the cross hatching in it right there. But man, there's a lot of carbon buildup. Let's see if I can get a look at the valves. Oh yeah, we can. Here we go. Gosh, unless it's something like carbon built up, You know, if there's like so much carbon on the valve and the piston and that's what's colliding, making the knock, like could that be it? I mean, there's a ton of carbon where that valve needs to sit, right there. I mean, it could be something like that. This is cylinder number 3. This one's not as bad for the scoring. There's a definite line here on 3 for the scoring on that cylinder. And there's 4, big slug of carbon. Look at that, that's a huge chunk. I mean, is it something stupid where the carbon is what's making the noise? Is that a thing? That better not be a thing. Look at that wear on that cylinder too. And this could be just a component of direct injection too. Oh yeah, look at that. Oh, spin, turn. Look at all that carbon buildup right there. Ugh, that is nasty. Interesting. I have this like weird suspicion that there's just so much carbon built up and it's striking the piston. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but these direct injections get real filthy. It's gross, and this cylinder too is the weirdest one to me, I guess. I don't have a definite answer here. I do not like that feeling. I want to know. And here's the condition of the spark plugs. It's got like buildup right here. All of them do. 2 and 3 are the worst. There's been that one coil replaced, and I think these still could possibly be original plugs. NGK Iridium, I don't know 100%, but yeah, carbon built up. I don't know. What is it? All right, well, this video really didn't turn out the way I expected because I thought for sure it was going to be a rod bearing that had failed, and then we were going to try a bunch of random things that you guys could suggest, like filling the entire engine up full of Lucas or Motor Honey or whatever. However, that's not going to work. It's not the case here because we have a knock and it's not a rod bearing. So I got a couple other ideas maybe to try because I think that there could be like a carbon issue that's causing some interference on the cylinder head from the piston because there's a lot of carbon built up on those things. I did put the camera up underneath too, and there's no obvious signs of like a wrist pin failure or cracked piston or anything of that nature. So I'm kind of at a loss. I'm like that kid where you're like trying to pass the test, but they put you in the back corner so you can't cheat off anybody's paper. Yeah, I'm kind of that feeling where I just don't have the answer, but I want to pass the test. So I think what I'm going to do here, there's going to be a part 2. We're going to try some fluids in this thing. Now I used this Marvel Mystery Oil in a Subaru that I tore down and had to clean the carbon off the pistons, and this stuff worked great. So I think what I'm going to do is pour this in this engine and let it soak and sit, and then come back and try to clean it up the best I can and see if that remedies it. If I do remedy it, that's kind of a wild card that we got playing here. Anyways, let me know your guys' thoughts. I guess if you are the Kia boys out there, what works on these things? Is this a common thing with carbon buildup? I know that the rods always exploded on them and then they would send out the block and wreck everything, but I don't think this is the case on this one. So still trying to figure it out. Let me know in the comments if you guys have seen something like this that could remedy it, and maybe we do save this engine, because I thought of a swap idea. We'll see if that happens or not. And then obviously I was just going to try some experiment stuff with it because, I don't know, that's what you guys seem to like. But yeah, I guess stay tuned to part 2. I'm going to try to think of what I need to do on this thing. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Reddit or something. Adios.